Boom! We are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to the Life as a Chad YouTube channel. And I thank all of you for being here wherever you may be. And of course, however you may be listening. Today, we are going to dive into the vaunted topic of body count. Does it matter? And if it does, to what degree? Now, initially, when I was gonna do this video and I was thinking about what I was gonna talk about during this video, it was basically just gonna be me diving right into it with a simple answer of yes, body count does matter, and you as a man should not feel badly that it is something that matters to you. After all, technically speaking, men are allowed to have standards as well. But when I was pulling up the graphics to accompany this video, there was a blog that I found very interesting that we're going to read together. And I haven't read it all the way through yet, but just the little bit that I've read from it, I think that this individual is going to try and say that people in the manosphere, in the red pill community, misconstrued the data. And the data largely says, at least in the manosphere and the red pill, suggests that the more sexual partners, especially that women have, the higher likelihood of their marriage failing and ending in divorce. So we're going to dive into this blog post. I'm pretty excited about it. This has never been a tough concept for me to come to terms with. From being a young man to now, I remember when I was in high school, this is something that all guys cared about who, the small percentage of us who actually did get some of the ladies in school. It's always been something that guys care about. And I would argue that it's instinctual, it's on a DNA level, and it's required, it's needed for a variety of reasons. And the first time I came across this idea was actually in college, and I've told you guys I went to two Christian universities. So my college experience has not been as liberal as others, because again, I did go to two Christian universities, but I don't want to pretend like it was like some conservative experience either. I think it was a fairly middle of the road experience. And the information, this was the first time I came across this idea. The information there was pretty straightforward, which is that the higher body count that someone has, the more sexual partners that they have, the more difficult it is for them to form a lifelong parabond with another individual. So this, again, this is not, has never been a tough concept for me to wrap my head around. I think a lot of people, especially the ladies, when they hear this, it offends them to their core for a variety of reasons, and even some men. So without further ado, let's get into this. So here we go, guys. The title of this Reddit post is Science, Count, and Divorce Risk. When the red pill abuses statistics to further its narrative. So I think the title says it all, where this individual is going to be pointing his or her, whoever it is, their narrative. And, I'm very curious to see where this takes us. All right, here we go. Female promiscuity and divorce risk is a popular talking point in the manosphere. If you're an ex-red pillar, chances are you've seen some variation of this graph from the Heritage Foundation, which represents how odds of being in a stable marriage decrease as number of premarital sexual partners increase. This is the first graph that it shows, and I did take a look at it before starting this recording. I still don't understand what it's trying to say, because the left side reads percent of sexually active women age 30 plus. Okay. And then the bottom says number of lifetime non-marital sexual partners. So again, like I said, I'm not really sure what this graph is trying to say, so we're not going to focus too much on that one. Like I said, I'm not doing that on purpose or anything like that. I really don't know what this graph is trying to prove. It's also very likely that you've seen this other graph linking the number of partners to divorce. So let's click on this one here. Let me see if I can zoom this in a bit. That's nice. Very nice. Here we go. So percentage of first-time marriages ending in divorce slash separation. And on the bottom, number of non-marital sexual partners. So 0 non-marital sexual partners, according to this graph, gives you less than a 10% chance of your first marriage ending in divorce. Now, a lot of people on the left, red pillars, I guess, would say, well, yeah, the reason that is that the person has nothing to compare it to. They have no, this is all they know. But when you say that, you're basically making the point that people on the right or red pillars are suggesting, which is that the less partners you have, the higher likelihood of a successful marriage. And if you're going to enter into a marriage, then shouldn't you want the highest percent chance of success? So regardless of if it's that, it doesn't really matter. Now, when people say that, they're basically saying it as some maleficent, I guess, narcissistic, not good situation where, they're basically trying to paint this picture of a woman who is like this caged bird or whatever, who doesn't get to experience life. There's actually a new TV show on Netflix, and one of the scenes from it, I forget what the show is called, but it's basically about this girl who's in a marriage, has a kid, and she is having, I think she ends up having an affair, and she has this yearning for this past life that she used to live. She basically has these two types of personalities, not that she's like a multi-personality schizo or anything like that, but she has this like party girl, party chick personality, and she also has this desire to live and be free and have fun and all this. And so when they say that, that's what they're pointing to. They're pointing to this idea that it's like some caged bird who hasn't experienced life, and the guy or the society that has a individual enter into a situation like that is some ruthless, mean, slave master type thing. Okay. So anyways, but that would be their argument. And I think it's a silly argument because it literally is making the point of what people on the right or red pillars are trying to say, which is if you are going to enter into a marriage, if you are going to buy into the idea of a marriage in and of itself, then in general, you should want the best chance of success. And regardless of the motivation or the underlying reason or whatever, the stats are still the stats. Okay, let's keep going. 2 partners, and it jumps up to, I would say, 28%, 27%. Why does it say 2 partners and then 2 partners again? Oh, that's 1 partner. Okay, 2 partners goes down a little bit, which I've seen some people point to as a reason that this whole notion is false, because they go, well, if it's true, then why does having 2 partners equal less of a chance of a divorce than 1 partner? I don't know. I don't really see it as that big of a deal because the drop off is minimal. It's pretty much dead even. And that's not surprising to me because to me the difference between one and two partners is minimal, whereas the difference between zero and one is actually quite big. So it's not that surprising of a thing there. 3 to 4 partners, and it skyrockets to a little under 40%. 5 to 6 partners, and it's jumps up slightly. It's probably 39%. 10 to 20 partners, and you have over a 50% chance of your first marriage ending in divorce. 21 plus partners, and you are close to a 60% likelihood of your first marriage ending in divorce or separation. Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh, that is fucking crazy, dude. All right, let's keep reading this. Numbers might not lie, but they're constantly misconstrued by those with an agenda. This is something I learned about this data from reading an unlikely source, the manosphere itself. While I don't endorse the author's views, that's terrible grammar, something I'll expand on later, he makes a very valid point after analyzing the data with greater accuracy. The foundation defines stable marriage as one that has existed for at least 5 years. As the blog's author noticed, this definition lumps widows with divorcees, and ignores divorces prior to women's current marriage. I'd also like to add that marriages that are yet to pass the 5-year mark are also categorized as unstable. So let's back up here. As the blog's author noticed, this definition lumps widows with divorcees and ignores divorces prior to women's current marriage. Huh. Okay. Not sure how much that matters, but okay. I'd also like to add that marriages that are yet to pass the 5-year are also categorized as unstable. Women who married later and shortly after they were surveyed are more likely to have more sexual partners as they've had more time for other relationships and casual liaisons compared to women who have been married for a longer time. So what? It doesn't matter. Because regardless, the number of partners equals, according to this data, that it's more of a likelihood of divorce. So and even if the person is 30 years old, yeah, that's not shocking, of course. And, let's think about this for a second. Most of the time, if you are one of those zeros, you're likely to have zero all the way up to 30 because that's just who you are. If you're one of those 10 plus partners, yeah, you're going to have 10 plus regardless of if you're 30 or not, because you're one of those individuals. That's how you see the world. So I don't really think that I don't think it's making the argument that this individual is trying to make. When the blog's author calculated the correlation between number of partners before the first marriage and likelihood of that marriage to fail, he found a very interesting trend illustrated in the graph below. Okay, let's check this out. Percentage, so on the left, percentage of first-time marriages ending in divorce separation. And then on the bottom is number of premarital sexual partners. Didn't we already read this? Oh, okay. And then the light blue is 2002 and dark blue is 2006-8. So in 2002, people who had 0 partners had a 25% chance of their marriage ending in divorce or separation. Whereas in 2006, which would be this dark blue line, the number of people who have 0 partners, that dropped down to about 15%. Okay, and you pretty much see that all the way through that 2002, each number is slightly higher, but it's not that much higher. And regardless, it's still it's still if you were to put the two graphs side by side, the light blue and the dark blue, and compare the trend is still the same. It's just really that there's slightly more in 2002, whatever the case may be. Perhaps there were, um, you know, whatever the case may be, than there is for the dark blue. I don't know what the reason is for that, but yeah, the trend is still the same. I mean, you look at the dark blue, and regardless, the more partners you have, it still goes up. It goes down slightly for the 3 to 4 in the 5. Oh, wow, that's interesting that it goes down um here in the middle range here. Huh. Wonder why that is. Number of premier. Huh. Okay. Well, let's read what this individual says. Because that just seems like it just seems different than what this graph showed. I'm not sure. Huh. Okay. Although women with lower odds of Although women with the lowest odds of divorcing were the ones who married virgins, the group more likely to divorce or separate was that of women with two premarital partners. This group also had a slightly higher failure rate than that of women with 21 plus partners. Women who had between 5 and 20 partners had lower divorce slash separation rates than those with 1 to 4 partners. Interesting. Based on this data, the blog author urges men to marry virgins if they want to decrease their risk of divorce. This is the point where other research might disagree with him. As usual with the manosphere, too much emphasis is put on female behavior while very little is said about male contribution to divorce and other marital problems. Now, I will agree with that. Okay. And those of you who have watched my videos know that I have critiqued right off the bat certain manosphere ideas and things like that. By and large, I think there are some things that they get right, but there's also some things that personally I don't think are correct. And I do agree here that at times there is far too much emphasis placed on women and lacking in emphasis when it comes to men. And in general, I believe that if you are a strong man, you have purpose, and you are what you need to be, and a woman has respect for you, regardless of the number of partners they have, you're going to be okay. Now, is it going to make it harder for you if she has like 30 plus partners before you? Yeah. But if you are the king that you're supposed to be, I think you should be okay. Maybe not okay all the time, but you'll be better off. Point is that there are multiple contributing factors here. It's not just solely the number of partners that a woman has, although that is certainly an aspect of it, but it's not the entire equation. Okay, let's keep reading. For example, people with more sexual partners are more likely to pair off with those who also have a higher number of partners. And the bigger the discrepancy in this number, the lower the relationship satisfaction. That makes sense. It does. Because, you know, if there's a guy who has been with a ton of women and then he gets with a virgin and she tends to be more reserved and prudish, I could see how that would be problematic. And I could see it the same way around. Maybe not as big of an issue, but I could see it the other way around if a woman has a bunch of partners and she's with a guy who doesn't have as many partners, although that is unlikely to happen because women always marry up or to the side of them. So they would either marry a guy who has had equal to the number of partners or the same kind of, I guess, value, or more. So, but I could see how it would work that way both ways. Let's continue reading. Okay, here we go. Um, this means that seeking a virgin might actually increase the chances of divorce for men who aren't virgins themselves. That makes sense. It does, honestly. That does make sense. I gotta say, okay, I gotta say, because as I alluded to in the previous point, if let's just use the example of a guy who has been with a lot of women, who happens to marry a chick who is a virgin. Okay, I think that there is a high likelihood that the guy is going to have a certain mindset when it comes to sex, and the girl has a good chance of being quite prudish and reserved for many reasons. It could be religious, it could be just because she's only been with this one guy. And they're, in other words, they're not on the same wavelength. Okay, I'm trying to beat around the bush here, but they're not on the same wavelength. Is it possible that it could work out? Of course, but again, they're not on the same wavelength, which could make it problematic for sure. Furthermore, the more partners the man has, the less likely he is to report being very happy with his marriage. Furthermore, the more, yeah, that's a well-known thing in the red pill community as well. Uh, you know, when they talk about this whole concept, it goes both ways. The more they say that the more partners a woman has, the less likely she is going to be happy, and the higher probability of divorce. And it goes the same for men. Now, it's slightly lower because men, of course, are different than women. As much as the West wants to make it seem that we're exactly the same and we bond in the exact same ways, and we are attracted in the exact same ways, which we are not. It is still very similar. Not the exact same, but it's still very similar. So they say that that's not necessarily contradicting the manosphere or red pill. Um, this also holds true. Okay, so let's read that again. Furthermore, the more partners the man has, the less likely he is to report being very happy with his marriage. Surprisingly, this also holds true for women, but differences between women with only one partner and those with 11 to 21 plus aren't statistically significant. It should be noted that the correlation between marital satisfaction and number of sexual partners is small. And I'm in no way implying that people with higher numbers are damaged or that they should be avoided for long-term relationships. So what is my advice to men trying to leave the red pill behind? Work on your emotional health and resolve any issues that lead to distress and toxic relationship dynamics. Attraction doesn't care about statistics. You'll be having a turbulent romantic life and falling for toxic women for as long as you have unresolved issues. Let's read this last paragraph again. I want to see the um, main point. Furthermore, the more partners the man has, the less likely he is to report being very happy with his marriage. Surprisingly, this also holds true for women, but differences between women with only one partner and those with 11 to 21 plus aren't statistically significant. So basically, what he's saying is statistically, women are just as happy in relationships who have only been with one person or who have been with 11 to 21 plus. Now, me, someone who sees that, I would say, well, if that's the case, then why do you need to be, the common whore or, get passed around by 40 different guys? If it's because he's saying that and he's pointing it to one direction, saying, well, if this is the case, then yeah, it's no big deal if she, goes and is with 30 different guys or one. And, if you want to go do the 30 different guys, more power to you because it's statistically insignificant. Whereas me, I read that and I go, well, if it doesn't matter, then why not err on the side of caution and, be a little bit more choosy and picky with guys that you allow to enter you. Because if it's, you know, if it really is that insignificant, then you're probably better off going with the smaller number, in my opinion. It should be noted that the correlation between marital satisfaction and the number of sexual partners is small. And I'm in no way implying that people with higher numbers are damaged or that they should be avoided for long-term relationships. So what is my advice to men trying to leave the red pill behind? Work on your emotional health and resolve any issues that lead to distrust in toxic relationship dynamics. Attraction doesn't care about statistics. All right. Interesting. Very, very interesting take. I'm glad I came across that. I am. And that was more or less going to be my answer anyways. I agree that the red pill places far too much emphasis and weight on the female side of things and this whole idea that you need to go and find a virgin. Furthermore, down that path, it's a huge unlikelihood that you are going to find that, even if you do believe that, because we live in the West and you would have to go jump through some pretty significant hoops to find that type of individual. And what this guy is saying is, even if you did do that, there's not a guarantee or even a high, that much higher of a likelihood that it's going to end in success anyways. So given that fact that it's going to be very difficult to find that in the West anyways, and where you would find that in the West, it presents its own issues in and of itself. There's a lot of hoops that you'd have to jump through. And I tend to agree with this individual that the most significant and probability raising thing that you could do as a man is to work through your shit and become a strong fucking man that has a purpose, that knows what he wants, is comfortable in his masculinity, is comfortable in who he is and his preferences, and knows how to be a strong man in a relationship. Because what ends up happening is there's too many guys out here who get into this red pill stuff. They become all theoretical and they view women through this theoretical lens, and but what they're not doing is actually working on their weaknesses when it comes to the male-female dynamics in the first place. So they end up watching this shit, and they end up still being pussies when it comes to women and not being able to hold frame, as Rollo Tomasi would say, not being able to have a fucking ball sack in a relationship, and they end up getting walked all over. And so they end up spending all this time in the red pill, and really all it ends up doing is making them hate women, but they don't end up holding themselves accountable and becoming the strong individuals, men that they need to become in order to hold down a relationship in the first place. So I would definitely agree with that. Now, with that being said, okay, I would not agree with this guy that it is statistically insignificant between a girl who has had less than 5 partners and a girl who has had, let's just say, more than 15. Okay. Number one, it is still most men who hold the preference of being with a girl who has not had a ton of partners for a variety of different reasons. Number one, paternity. I don't know if you guys, how many of you have heard that theory? But in the past, it's evolutionary. I don't believe in evolution, but it's evolutionary, or it's in our DNA. Men cannot they cannot know for sure that a kid is theirs, whereas women can always know when a child is there. So since men can't know that, they will always err on the side of choosing a girl who is not as promiscuous, because it will basically raise the likelihood of them to be able to guarantee their paternity of the kid. So that's number one. And the second thing is, as I already said, it's just what, guys are territorial. And, um, there is this whole thing, you know, for as much as women say that they care about um, romance and things like that, and I guess the money would suggest that they do too. That's what they spend a lot of money on. This whole idea of love and things like that, uh, let's take that down to its logical conclusion here. If love is a thing, well, then if if you're a girl who's been with 10 plus guys, what makes me and our relationship right here and now special at all when you've had the same exact thing with 10 other men? And that's a very real idea. How in any way, shape, or form is it special or unique when you've had something similar and allowed 10 plus other guys to enter you into as intimate a situation as one can do. um there's also that. And the final thing I would say, because the original question that I asked is, does body count matter? And let's just say that everything that this guy said is true. Let's just say that it is insignificant. I would still advise on considering that and not making it the end all be all, but if you can get it as a piece of information, definitely get it. And I would still err on the side of trying to find a girl who's had, especially if she's from America or from somewhere in the West, finding a girl who has been with less than 10 guys. And, I would still suggest that for all the reasons that I listed above. So we're going to watch this though and see one more thing. The thing that gets lost in this whole discussion, especially when it comes to the left-right dynamic, is and this is something that the West is currently battling right now, which is that men and women are equal. We're exactly the same, and we just aren't. Regardless of, again, pointing to what this guy is saying, even if what he is saying is true, okay, and basically, what he was saying is it's not as clear cut as the red pill or the manosphere wants to make it. There's all these different data points that you need to take into account. Well, okay, let's take one more piece of data into account here. Women are as unhappy as they have ever been throughout history than they are right now. And what is the major difference? Well, feminism would be a major difference that exists in society now than existed before. And a part of that is this whole hookup culture, this whole idea that women can act exactly like men and sleep around exactly like men do. And it's just not true. Women are not designed for that. And we just bond differently. Women are far more emotional, spiritual, vibing creatures than men are. And uh, it's no wonder that it makes them incredibly unhappy when, in the first place, it requires this unique emotional bond in the first place for them to sleep with a guy. It's no surprise that they end up super unhappy when they go through all of that in the first place just to sleep with a guy, and then it's all done in 2 seconds, and that happens over and over. Imagine that happening 15 plus times with them. Of course, it is totally going to kill them inside. It's going to rot them inside. It really is. So, and see, someone like me views this topic not just through a data point or scientific perspective, but also through a spiritual, religious viewpoint as well. Because that's another thing that, and I don't think he would agree with this necessarily, but that's where the red pill and this individual gets it wrong. It's not just about the science, it's not just about the data. There's also an element to human beings that is also spiritual, very much spiritual. So, all right, we're gonna listen to this here a little bit. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but I have indeed decided to. Let's see what they have to say.
California, like a lot of, I'm very rare. Like my standards are very different from a lot of guys here.
No, I totally understand that.
So like most guys here probably aren't going to care as much as I do.
Well, it's not. Yeah, I think that.
Right off the jump, I disagree. All men care. It's just some guys are either brainwashed or they're far too big of pussies to actually admit it, because they know if they do, in their minds, it will decrease their chances of getting laid. Now, in my eyes, it'll actually increase it, because anytime women, and this is the whole problem with modern day men, is they just continue to placate and just continue to behave as very weak men. When it's the opposite. When women see you behaving as a strong, secure man in your own worldview, there's nothing more that they find attractive than that. Here we go.
I'm just thinking of it in my own perspective, and it's just like I'm so far beyond that, like that far, like that thought, like that just doesn't even cross my mind anymore.
What doesn't cross your mind?
Like body count, or like how many people you've been with, like that is so just not in my range of thought, because I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking of people like as a person and how they are, and I don't care about who they've been with or like what they've done in their past. That
you don't?
I don't care about what they've done in their past sexually. That really doesn't bother me at all. Like
what about truly, let me just come in real quick on this. What about, would you date a guy who previously slept with prostitutes?
Yeah.
No issue there?
That's like no different.
That's really not that's not an issue for me at all.
That's an issue for me.
But that's a
legal issue.
Those are women that have slept with like hundreds of dudes.
Of course, the point that question alludes to is, of course, preferences. And he's suggesting the hypocrisy in this girl's answer, where she says that she's so far beyond that. Now, she ends up staying consistent in her opinion, but many women would fail this answer. They would say, oh, I don't care about body count. Body count doesn't matter. But when they're asked about this, they'd say, oh, no, I'd never be with a guy who has to pay for sex. So again, it just points out the hypocrisy. And everybody, even women to a certain degree, care about each other's sexual past, for sure. And rightfully so.
Yeah, but that doesn't
it is always, it's not the end all be all, but it is certainly something that needs to be taken into account. And to act as though it means nothing is just lying to yourself.
That doesn't change who they are as a person.
Literally.
And
does
like,
you paid for sex.
If I love them and who they are,
but that is part of who they are.
Good answer. It is. It certainly is part of. In fact, I would argue, and I'm so glad that my Japanese gal here, or no, I can't remember. I saw this podcast. She might be Chinese. My Asian gal here brought this point up. Very, very beautiful. And she brings up a beautiful point here. I would argue, as she is as well, that your past decisions paint more of a picture of who you really are than your current words or current attitudes ever could. You are if you were to put a puzzle together of just your past decisions, it would perfectly illustrate who you actually are. And it would be very, very accurate. Surprisingly accurate.
It's their career, right?
No, well, yeah, but he's saying if they had paid for
unprotected sex with
for the guy.
I'm sure. I mean, like, I want whoever I'm gonna be with.
Can I share with you why I care about this?
Yeah, but like, let me finish my thought.
Yeah,
if I care about who they've been with, like, of course I want them to be safe. I want them to be tested. Everybody that I've been with, like, I want them to be safe and tested and make sure they don't have any STIs or anything. But
who does that? Quit fucking lying. Who does that? And if you don't care, then you wouldn't need them to do that anyways, because you don't care.
Yeah, I don't care about that.
Can I jump in real quick?
Yeah,
That's
of course.
Huge deal breaker. Like, no freaking way. Like,
if the
she is such a California girl. Like, no freaking way. Like, Yeah, it's deal breaker.
Guy
Has been
slept
with a prostitute. I mean, like, dude, if you want to get with someone, can you not get with someone without paying for it? Like, come on.
Okay.
Come on,
It's a
man.
fair point.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
What's
It's just
up
like
with you?
everybody's like, I don't know.
So let me
really
share with
bother
you.
me.
Let me share with you why
Yeah.
it's important to me is they've done studies, and for both sexes, the more
My 2 cents on the whole paying for it is I can see why, and perhaps this is a good video topic for a different time. I don't want to make this video too long, and we're going to wrap it up here in a couple minutes, but just my quick answer to the whole paying for it is I can see her point about if you want to get with someone, it's not a good look that you have to pay someone to be with you. Okay. And I can see that. That is in its own way valid. Okay. But at the same time, again, she's looking at it through a female lens where women play this game on easy mode. Okay. They have the key to the candy shop as soon as they turn 18, whereas men have to earn it years after turning 18. And even more than that, let's just say it's a guy who has no problem getting women. Men have far more testosterone than women do, and sometimes it is just easier to do that, less expensive. Um, now really the only issue I would have with it, I guess, would be on a biblical level, that it's, I believe it is a sin to have premarital sex. But also just from the standpoint of, the sex is, when you pay for it, is not legitimate. It's, it's pretty much all fake, and it's, you should have more pride in yourself. You should want someone who is with you to want to be with you, to have pure desire for you, not completely negotiated. Now, on some level, all male female interaction is negotiated. I understand that, but you should not want it to be a purely negotiable transaction.
sexual partners a person has, the higher the likelihood of divorce later on. And I think it's because the more people you sleep with, I think it desensitizes your body and soul and mind to pair bonding, right?
Okay.
So like when you have sex with somebody, you release oxytocin, and that causes the two of them to bond with one another, right? I think the reason why there's a higher divorce rate, the more people that someone sleeps with, is because that like pair bonding is blunted. I really want like a rock solid marriage. Like I really want, to be a good father. I want my wife to be a good mother. I want us to be good spouses to one another. And that's like part of the reason why I'm saving myself for my wife moving forward,
right?
And I came from a divorce.
See, I'm going to end it here. We could have made this a whole video in and of itself, reacting to this, whatever podcast clip. I also disagree with his mindset, not fully, but partially. This whole born again virgin thing is silly. And, on one hand, these girls would be very smart if they said, you know what, well, you say you care about body count and sexual history, yet you want people to completely forget about your sexual past and believe that you are this, born again virgin, as if that is an actual thing, which it's not. Now, of course, he'd say, no, I'm totally open about my sexual past. But the whole thing is judging someone for their sexual past. And, on one hand, he wants it to matter that he's a born again virgin, as if that's an actual thing, as I already said, and, be able to judge women for their sexual past. Not that he's wrong for that either, or solely. But anyway, so the born again virgin thing, again, maybe that's another video topic as well. That's an interesting concept as well. So we're going to wrap it up here, Kings. Thank you for hanging with me. The channel continues to fucking grow, and I'm so grateful for each and every one of you who are joining me on this venture. We'll see how far it goes. These are very fun topics to dive into. I'm always open to more literature and more information on this. So if you have something, put it in the comment section and let me know. Be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It takes 1.25 seconds. And last but not least, DBAP, don't be a pussy with all facts or feelings, because your feelings just don't matter. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.